Comme d'habitude, je vais faire ma petite intro très rapide parce que je fais l'agenda des événements du prochain mois, mais comme c'est le mois de décembre, il n'y en a pas. Donc, ce soir, vous savez pourquoi vous êtes venus. Donc, merci Stéphane d'être venu de Belgique pour notre premier talk sur Spring en 5 ans d'existence. Bravo, bravo. Et c'est pas que j'aime pas Spring. Je ne sais pas pourquoi. Parce qu'on n'avait pas trouvé Stéphane. Ouais, ça doit être. Comme d'habitude, on finira par un petit buffet qui aura lieu ici, avec de la bière pas belge, offerte par un de nos sponsors, qui devra arriver bientôt. Et alors, les prochains événements, je dis qu'il n'y en a pas. Si, il y a. Donc, si vous aimez le JavaScript, donc, il y a une session PGB, une 7JS, ça se passe à Lausanne par contre. Voilà. Un autre événement au mois de décembre, c'est DevOps for Kids. C'est une initiative qu'on a montée pour faire des ateliers d'initiation en programmation pour les enfants. Donc, on va accueillir presque 70 enfants le 13 décembre sur 5 ateliers différents. Et si vous voulez vous inscrire, vous pouvez essayer, mais c'est complet. Et vous pouvez vous mettre sur une liste d'attente, mais comme on a déjà 15 personnes, je ne pense pas que ça sera possible. Et je crois qu'on cherche encore, si on veut ouvrir quelques places supplémentaires pour peut-être des gens sur liste d'attente, s'il y a une ou deux personnes qui veulent nous aider, ben, venez me voir à la fin. Et puis, on se retrouvera fin janvier, comme d'habitude, pour notre soirée anniversaire. Donc, on fera une soirée un peu particulière, on n'a pas encore décidé. Ça sera surprise jusqu'au bout. Et je vous avais promis, c'était hyper rapide, une bonne soirée. Il y en a qui partent. I'm guessing there's a few people that do not speak French in the room. Yeah, in the back. Okay. Is it the only one? Well, I'm going to speak English for you. So welcome to this session on Spring Boot. My name is Stéphane Nicole. I'm working for Pivotal. I'm working on the core framework, and I'm a team member of the Spring Boot team. You can find some ways to reach out, so Twitter and my email. But please, if you have feedback or if you want to discuss about Boot, or if you feel that something was missing from the presentation, I'll be really happy to get your feedback, if that's as important as the presentation itself. So we'll see how Spring Boot can make you a hero if you start from nothing. So from zero does not mean that you suck at something. It just means that you don't have anything. So you start from a blank sheet, and then you can do amazing things very quickly. So I've prepared some slides, but the idea is to quickly switch to a demo because slides are boring, especially when I'm in trouble with it. So what I want to do first is to explain you what Boot is and what it's not. Because if you look around, you'll see that there are, if you search on the web, if you search on Twitter, you'll find that there is many interpretation of what Boot can be. And I just want to make sure that it's clear for you what we intend to do with it. So I'm guessing that all of you have used Spring in the past somehow. Who has never used Spring in the past? Okay, 1, 2, 3. All right. That might be a bit harder for you to I'm sorry. Okay, but you can talk to anyone else in the room
they will fully agree with this, I'm sure. If you start to work with Spring, and so Spring is a framework, and then you have a set of projects around it. So you have the core framework, which used to be the dependency injection and aspect-oriented programming infrastructure. And on top of that, we've built a lot of features around it. And we did that in a way where each module can be used independently. So you use the core framework, and then you add, for instance, Spring Batch. You can build batch applications. You add Spring integration. You can integrate with all kinds of environments. You can connect to GMS queues, NQP, queues, etc., etc. You can use Spring Data, and then you can create repositories to access your data on SQL and NoSQL stores. Anyway, my point is, when you start working and you pick several of those modules, it quickly becomes quite complicated to know which version of which match with which versions of what. So you basically spend quite a lot of time to figure out how to configure your project, basically. So we wanted to fix that. We wanted to make sure that Spring Boot is a single entry point for building those applications. So one goal is to allow you to get started very quickly in Spring. You see that? So that's one thing I would like to show you, is the productivity that you get using Spring. How quickly you can start, how quickly you can try a new use case, a new feature. You want to integrate a new library and you want to try it out, just to see how it works. It's very easy and it's very quick. So I want to show you that. That's the first part of this session, really. And the second part of the session I would like to show you is the non-functional features that Boot provides you. So basically, like any other company, we've built a lot of projects. And every time we start a new project, so basically a new service, a new application, we have to define those non-functional services again. Typically, monitoring, service to monitor your application, service to retrieve configuration or part of the configuration of the app. So you have to build those services over and over again, and it's boring. So what we want to do is through Boot, to provide you a base set of services that you can try. You can enable them, or you can enable them if you don't want to use them. And if that doesn't match what you use in your app, you can tune them. So we will see that later. So Boot is about doing things for you if you don't have any opinion. So for those who know the Spring framework, it has been known for quite some time now, more than 10 years, as a solution to avoid you to write the code that you're not supposed to write. So the technical code, like if in the past you've used the GDBC connection directly, I hope you don't do that anymore. You've probably heard of the class named the GDBC template in Spring, which opens the GDBC connection for you, allows you to implement some code, even will pass you a statement that you can use. And then it will close the statement, close the connection for you. You don't have to write all that code. If there is an exception, it will be managed in a sensible way, and you get a proper exception that really says what happened, even in a database independent way. So that's really my point. Spring Framework has been known as avoiding you to write that stuff. What Boot does, Boot does the same for the configuration, basically. So if you want to try using the Spring Framework, if you want to build an app using the Spring Framework today, you have to configure it. You basically have to put the pieces together and say, okay, I want a GDBC template, I want a data source, the database here. I'm going to configure the database with a certain data pool because I want to pull the connections. And you have to take all kinds of decisions. What we want to do with Boot is that you don't have to take those decisions if you don't care. If you basically trust that we will provide you with a default that makes sense, and that default is based on years of experience and years of building apps, basically. So a way to summarize what Spring Boot is this quote from Josh Long. You probably heard of him at some point if you attended an international conference. So he's the guy who's basically flying around to do talks about Spring. And what he said is basically Spring Boot lets you pair programming with a Spring team. And I'd like to, I'll always extend that quote when I present it, because to me it feels it miss one part is actually Boot lets you pair programming with the guy who developed the library. You can see that, for instance, with KML, if you know about it. That's yet another library to connect to all kinds of systems. And they've started to provide auto configuration support in KML. So if you use Spring Boot in KML, you will get also nice default out of the box. And those defaults have been built by the guy behind the library. What Spring Boot isn't, it's very important. Do not, let's say, do not focus too much on the, it's really quick to get started, as it's a thing to prototype an application. And once you need to be serious about it, once your application becomes large, or you have more than a few services, then you can usually put Boot on the side and start only with the framework, basically. That's not true. So Spring Boot is really about prototyping, we'll see that in a minute, but it's also about building the app up to and including the production. You'll see that Spring Boot is actually building an application in such a way that it basically your application becomes a process. So you basically have a jar that contains everything. So you do, we'll see that in a minute, you do Java -jar, your jar, and your application starts. And for that, we use embedded containers. Spring Boot is really nice for building web applications, but you can also build all kinds of applications that do not include a container at all. Or you can also deploy your Boot app in a regular Socket container if you want. So you can build a raw file and deploy the raw file the way you used to. You don't get any super Spring experience, so basically you get the full power of Spring behind. It's still Spring, nothing has changed. Just that all kinds of configuration you used to write yourself are now written automatically for you. And that's definitely not for Spring beginners only. So even experienced Spring developers will enjoy using Boot. I hope I can convince you that during this talk. Okay, that's enough for the slides. I hope it will work. So the first thing I want to do is, so one thing is, if you can't read, you should shout, because it's very slick on this screen, but mine will be on that one. So if you can't read, just say so, please. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a simple class. If you don't know about Spring MVC, that might be a bit cryptic to you, but I'll explain that in a minute. Let's see. I want to build a web application. That's Groovy, by the way. Who knows about Groovy? Right, so Groovy is a language on the JVM. So it's really fun if you're using Java. It's really, so it's a functional language. And if you use Java, it's really familiar. So it's really nice to get started using Groovy if you want to try a different language, because the syntax is really similar. What you can see here is I didn't have to put the public keyword. That's because Groovy public methods are public by default in Groovy. That's why there is no public for the class either. You don't need to put the semicolon at the end. You don't need to put return at the end. So in this case, it's a method that returns a string. So I'm just writing the string as the last statement in the method. Anyway, if you're interested, we can discuss that later.
Your question?
Yeah. Sorry.
We just in the Java class, right?
Yeah. I just want to show really getting started, because there is two parts in Boot. You have the command line interface, which allows you to run Groovy scripts, and you have the old Java story. I just want to spend 10 minutes on Groovy just to show you what it does, because there is some nice, let's say, features around it, and then I'll switch completely to Java and we'll forget about Groovy. Just keep in mind that you can do exactly the same thing in Java. Actually, we will do the same thing in Java right after. I want to build a web application that when you hit the home page on this web application, I want to return hello GenevaJUG. So it's basically another world using root. So I'm going to create what in the Spring world is called a REST controller. It has nothing to do with root, it's a regular Spring MVC. So basically I'm saying that class is a controller as in MVC model view controller. And the request marking annotation there is basically saying if that URI is being hit by the application, call that method. So basically it will call the localhost 8080, which is the default if you deploy an app on your laptop. So if I go on localhost 8080 /, it will basically call that method and it will return what's in there. But I just have that script, right? Oh, that's not the right command. I'm going too far. So I'm going to run that script, and it will do something for me. Let's see. Right. There you have an app. Okay? Those who have tried Spring MVC in the past probably understand why it's really cool. If you don't, just try to, let's say, look around the amount of configuration that you need to put into it. There's no container you have to set up. There's no WAR file you have to build. There's no, okay, I need to deploy the WAR file in the Tomcat, then I need to run the Catalina SH, or if you use Jetty or whatever, Vim script you use to start Jetty. Just works. The other thing I want to do quickly is to show you the watch feature. So that's about prototyping again. So I started my app, it's still there. And what I'm going to do instead is something like this. So I'm going to introduce a variable. And I'm going to say, you notice that I did not restart anything, right? I just set the script. So the -- watch is basically watching your Ruby script, and if they change, they just redeploy your thing. All right. So that's for prototyping, right? It's not really, let's say, you still have no clue how you can use that stuff in production, because in production, what the guy will ask you is basically give him a raw file for deployment. What I can do is I can do something like this. That's the right time now. So basically, use the jar command, taking my script. So that will be basically build a jar file and run it like this. And I have my app again. So java-jar, the jar file, and that's your app. Of course, here I'm starting with something very simple, a simple REST controller with the controller has only one mapping method, which returns a string. So that's not really fancy, but any complex boot application works that way. Have you seen the new website, Spring.io? Anyone? Yeah? Spring.io? Okay, already sleeping or what? Spring.io, was seen it? I want to know. Okay. That's a Spring Boot app. So if you look at Spring.io after the talk, or if you want to look on your phone or whatever, if you look on Spring.io, you can start that app with java-jar and the name of the jar. Exactly the same way as what I've done. When I looked at that, and maybe it's a question that you have, the room is not that big, so if you have questions, just ask them. If you have questions about what I'm presenting, just ask them. If you have unrelated questions, maybe save them for the end. Otherwise, I will start to discuss about unrelated things and I will lose my flow. So the first thing that bugged me when I start working with this, actually the boot project started before I joined, is how do you configure that stuff, right? You have a jar file, and you want to change something in the config somehow. You want to, I don't know, tune Tomcat or tune your application or whatever. What do you have to do? Do you have to extract the jar file, edit your configuration, rejar it? Is that what you have to do? Well, no, not really. So you can do something like this. Maybe I was maybe too quick. So I wrote the same command and I prefixed it with --server.port equals 7000. If I look at my app, it's not there anymore. It's gone, but it's here. And what's important about it, what you really should remember is that infrastructure, that configuration infrastructure works for the keys, the configuration key that root provides, but it works exactly the same way for your configuration. So you can basically use our infrastructure, the root infrastructure, to define your keys, and you can easily override those. So there is multiple ways you can do that. You can override them on the command line. You can specify system properties. You can specify environment properties, so we will look at that too. You can have a file which sits at the root of your class path. The name is application.properties by default. That's what we look. And you can have such a file in the directory where you start the application. So basically, if you have application.properties in your jar with server.port equals, I don't know, 7000, and you have an application.properties in the directory where you start the app with 6000, and you run the app, the port will be 6000. If now you pass the flag like I did, that's the value that will win, and etc. with the system properties and the environment properties, you probably guess the default that we use because it's the same everywhere. So you can configure your app now. So I just wanted to show you the Groovy story. And what we're going to do now is we're going to do the same thing with Java. That's yet another app. So that's a Spring Boot app written in Groovy. If you don't know about that one and you use Spring, you should probably bookmark it. So start.spring.io. It's a website where you basically define a few things about your project, like the name of the project, the kind of build system you want to use, if you want to package as a jar file or raw file, the Java version. Oh, important here, if you hear somewhere that Spring Boot or Spring 4 requires Java 8, it's wrong. So we will run happily with Java 6, Java 7, Java 8. So if you have Java 6 plus, it will work just fine. If you are lucky enough to use Java 8 and Lambdas, you will find that it's very, you will feel very at ease with the framework. It's like it was designed for it. If you can't and you're still on Java 6, well, that will work too, without Lambdas, of course. And if you're on Java 5, there's nothing I can do for you. So I chose Java 8 because, I mean, that's cool, right? And I'm going to use the latest version, RC2, which was released last week, maybe this week, I can't remember. So that's the basic stuff about the app. And on the right, it's basically a shopping cart. You're basically saying the technology you want to use for your app, which technologies you want to integrate, and we will integrate those for you. So remember what I said when mixing and matching several technologies together, you have to find which version of Spring Security will work with which version of Spring Batch. And when you have those two together, they share the third-party library, and you use a different one, and you don't know if it will work or not. That's the kind of problem you get with any framework, by the way. So what I'm going to do, since I want to replicate what I've done in Groovy, I'm just going to choose web. If I don't do that, so if I choose nothing, I basically get a command line application. That's fine, right? Okay. Here we go. So I have a project that has been generated for me. Don't bother about that stuff. That's because I'm using an underground version of IntelliJ, which is not released yet. You'll understand why later. Okay. So if you look if you look at what you basically get 3 files. You get this famous application properties I was mentioning earlier. So if you put some configuration keys in there, you're going to tune the way Spring Boot works. Or if you define keys yourself, it will tune whatever keys you have defined in your project. There's an application class, which has a main class. And believe it or not, but you can start your app with right-click run. So no Maven plugin, Gradle plugin, or whatever build system you use. No Tomcat to install, nothing. You just right-click run, and it works. So that's really, really nice if you want to debug. That's even nicer if you use a profiler. If you use GenevaJUG, there is a blog post of those guys. They released that last week, where they show how you can integrate GenevaJUG with Boot. Really nice video. And there is also a test. We are going to create tests on our own, so I'm just going to delete that one. And oh yeah, I forgot to mention. And there is 3 annotations in there. If you know about Spring, you probably know the first 2. For those who don't know, I'm going to quickly explain what that does. At configuration is basically flagging the class as being a configuration class, or a class where you can define extra beans in the context, extra services. Component scan is basically looking at the demo package and the sub-packages for annotated class. And so typically our REST controller, I wrote in the Groovy one. If I annotate a class REST controller in that package, it will be picked up automatically. And the third one is the only boot specific annotation. That's basically saying, this is a Spring Boot application, please do the configuration magic for me. And what that's going to do is that's going to look at your application, your configuration. That's going to look at the class path of your application. That's really the key part of it. And based on the things you've added to your project, it will auto-configure them if they have not been configured already. Or if you haven't said explicitly, I don't want to configure that stuff. So typically what happens if when I tick the web thing on the right on the form, it added the necessary to start a web application. So it added Spring MVC, it added the GSR 303 validation, and it added a container. And Boot will figure out, hey, there's a container here. I should probably configure it. And it will configure Tomcat for you, because that's default provide. So let's see. I'm going to create my controller again. Slightly more verbose. Let's hope I didn't use anything. Okay, looks like what I had before. And maybe I should that one. So I'm really going to create vanilla run configuration for that class. So I'm not going to pass some mysterious system properties or whatnot. I'm just going to tick on this one. If you ever present in your life, that's the key saver. That's basically preventing 2 applications to run at the same time, which will not work if you demo a web application, because the port will be used. So if you do a demo in your life, that's really something you should remember. That's the only thing I think, right? I could have disabled that, and that would work the same. And I'm just going to start it. All right. So I have an app. Maybe I should go out the stupid. Back to it. And I have mine. Right? Same experience. So you write in the IE, no build script, no WoW file, no whatever. Right click run, it works. So I want to show you the kind of thing we can do with that. So first thing I want to do is I want to create a test. Everybody writes tests, right? That's what I thought. So I'm going to say I want to start this test with the Spring Runner. If you don't know about the Spring, yeah. All right, thank you. So if you don't know about JUnit and Spring, the first annotation is basically saying when you start JUnit, start it with the Spring runner. So basically making sure that Spring is bootstrapped properly, etc. And then I'm just saying, that's why I named that integration test. Just start the app. That's what the second annotation will do. And I'm explicitly asking for a web application, because if I don't do that, it only starts the application without the web. Okay, so I'm going to create a simple test. I need the location. So let's see, a host and a port. I need to do a hit on that address and asking for a string. And I should assert that that body is, if I haven't made a typo. Okay. But I still don't have my port here. And I don't want to start on a GenevaJUG, because if you've done integration tests once in your life, you know that when you play with a container, you want to make sure that the container doesn't start on the port that's going to be used. And you also want to make sure you can parallelize those, so you can run those tests at the same time without them failing. Okay, so let's find a port then. And it's not a string. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use the integration test annotation of root. And I'm basically going to overwrite some property. You remember about --server.port equals 7000, and the Tomcat started with that port. I can also say 0, and 0 means just choose one from. Once I have that, I still don't have the actual port that the container has chosen for me. But I can inject that very easily. There's a convention you have to know. You just need to read the documentation. It's prefixed with local. Okay, let's see what that does. Right. My green is better than this green, but that's not yellow, that's green. I can see it's maybe yellow, but that's green, trust me. You've also seen the nice ASCII banner. That's probably one of the most impressive features in Group. So I'm going to change it. And just to show you the kind of convention that you get. So once you, well, okay, nobody cares about changing the banner, except if you're really proud of your company or whatever. And there's a glitch in it, I don't know why. So yeah, okay, I can do that. And add the banner. Right? Press it. Okay, so if you look at the build file now, you will see that only 2 dependencies were added. If you are Maven Guru or a Maven fan, or I'm a Maven fan myself, me, you will see that there is a parent POM, and you might be afraid, hey, I don't want to change my parent POM. I want to stick with the parent POM of my company because I have all those settings that I share. Don't worry, that's just the default that we create because that's the easiest. If you don't want to inherit from our POM, that's perfectly fine, and everything will still work. I can explain you that later if you don't find that on the web, but there's a lot of explanation. Well, there's a lot of articles explaining you how you can do that, and in the doc it's explained too. But what's really important is there is no version in those dependencies. So what that basically means is you're trusting someone to provide the version for you. And there's 2 dependencies. The second one, you can forget about it. That's basically the test infrastructure. It's being added by default. That's why I could use JUnit by default without the need to import it in the project. But the other one is an artifact called Spring Boot Starter Web. And what you'll see is that's one of the things that Boot provides you is, so rationalize the dependencies with all kinds of technologies. That's basically the thing on the right on startupspring.io. Okay? So you want to choose a technology. Remember this. You want to try a technology with boot. You choose the starter for it. You add the starter to your app. Bam, done. I want to show you that with a concrete example. So what I want to do now is write a domain with MongoDB. So I just added the starter. Okay, that's the other thing I did. And I'm going to create a user class. Actually, I'm not going to write it because otherwise everybody will fall asleep. So the user class has an ID, a username, a given name, and a family name. And the username is built based on the given name and the family name with a dot. That's probably the most impressive class I've ever written. And I'm going to create a repository for it, right? And I'm going to explain that in a minute for those who don't know about Spring Data. So Spring Data is one of the let's say the modules in the Spring portfolio you may use if you want to access a data store, be it a SQL store or no SQL store, like in this case. And it gives you an abstraction, several levels of abstraction for accessing the data. In this case, you'll see that I've chosen the CRUD repository, which will basically give me CRUD operations in an independent manner. So you see that there is no reference to Mongo in this case, in this class. I'm going to use Mongo. Just like I did, I added the start on MongoDB. So I'm going to use MongoDB, but you can't see anything that refers to MongoDB in that interface. And what Spring Data does is it allows you to okay, thank you. The domain thing. It will basically generate the proper query based on the method signature. That's one of the features. So if you write user find by username passing a string username, that will basically do what you expect it to do. Of course, in the real world, queries are more complicated than that. So you can go very complex with the method signature. You can do a lot of things now, but you may want to write the query yourself. You can do that too. So you can use Spring Data, still having a generic interface and your custom implementation, where you can basically inject the Mongo template and do whatever you want. I'm not going to do that because I'm not sure I'll be able to do it. But just to show you a second example, like my family name. All right, something like that, right? So let's create a test for that, right? And for this method. Yeah, bigger, I know. So I'm going to inject the user repository. So just to be clear, I'm not going to implement that. Spring Data is going to implement that for me. So I will not write any code. That's Spring Data, by the way. That has nothing to do with boot. But what I want to show you is how easy you can go with an existing app. You add the data MongoDB starter. You write a few lines of code, and there you have it. So let's inject that. Don't do this at home. Right. Okay. So I'm going to save. So these are all the methods that the repository gives you. So I'm going to save a new entity. I'm going to create a new user. Desire, one of the lead of Spring Boot. And I'm going to use my find by username with Dave.sire, if you follow what the constructor was doing. And make sure that it was found properly. And let's see it again. All right, maybe I should start MongoDB. run that test. Okay, yellow again, or green. So what happened here really is you created a user repository class in the package or a subpackage of your app. By default, we will scan that. Since you added data MongoDB to your class path, the data auto configuration will kick in. It will look, hey, what do I have here? Okay, I only have one technology. Hey, I have a repository class there. Okay, maybe that's Mongo. Since I only have Mongo in my class path, that's because you want to use it, right? So I'm just going to create the proxy implementation for it so that you can inject that into your code. If you use Spring Data yourself, you know that you have to write enable Mongo repositories with the base package to scan. You have to create a Mongo template. You have to link them together, etc., etc. Next step is I have a web application to expose those repositories to the web as RESTful endpoints. And for that, I'm adding a new starter, data REST. And I'm just going to tune it to tune the way the repository is exposed by default. With this, I'm going to change the path of the search method. And prior to Java 8, you have to basically give the name of the attributes because we can't use that. We can. And I'm just going to restart the app. Okay? Oh yes, please stop and rerun it. And let's look at. Oh, that's also a bit small, right? So let's look at localhost 8080/users. The name basically comes from the name of your repo without the repository settings and the nest. That's the default that we apply. If you don't like that, you want to expose that to /user. There's an annotation you can use. But again, what I really want to show you is the out-of-the-box experience you get. Once you have that and you have it working, you're already happy, I'm sure. And then you want to look at the Spring Data REST documentation developer guide, and you can find those annotations. So I used REST resource, but I may have used repository REST resource, which allows me to change the path of the repository. I can find like two queries there. You see that in the first case, the URI has been changed. So it's not the method name, but the by username, because that's what I changed in the implementation. And these are fully functional RESTful endpoints. So I can basically issue a post on the /users endpoint and to create stuff for me. So if I look at that JSON, right, which is in the below, let me put it a bit above. Because I'm lazy and I always forgot how to write that thing. So I basically do curl on the user's endpoint saying that, hey, I'm sending JSON here, and here is the content of the JSON file. And what I get as a reply is 201 created, which is being a nice HTTP citizen. So it's basically saying, hey, I got you. I created that stuff for you. And it also added a location header, which basically points to the resource that has been created for you. Okay, so let's see. Here we go. Okay, if I go back on the user's endpoint, I have a few data in there now with the link. And I can do a search pretty much the same way as what I did in my test. All this, you can use that programmatically, of course. There is nice support for Jackson and JSON serialization and whatnot. And what you can do with Spring Data REST is quite interesting, actually. You can You can use projections. You have a profile that's being generated with the RESTful API, with the Alps profile. If you're interested by that, it's really interesting. So there's all kinds of things you can do with it. And these are available for you out of the box. Right. So the next thing you want to do really is you want to secure that web application, right? And you expose some data. So let's see. What should I do here? For those who are not sleeping. Let's see starter security, right? And if I do that, and I start the app again, and I just refresh that stuff, here we go, secured. Okay? So basically, that's the same thing. We find that we have Spring security in the class path. It's a web application. Okay. You gave no opinion whatsoever about the security configuration you want to apply. So let's just secure the whole thing with basic authentication. And the default username is user, and the default password is it's not. We don't want to be responsible of having a production application with a known password in the documentation. So what we do is we generate a unique password every time the app starts. So that's what you get here, basically. Okay? I don't want to do that. So, is there a joke?
You have the same password as me.
Oh, impressive. You can retain all that, that's fine. So what I want to show you now is it's like the happy path scenario, except that it could have been broken. It worked. What I want to show you is what happens when you give an opinion. So when you give a piece of configuration in it, you don't want to have this. You don't want to have this generated user. You want to have a set of different users. So if you know about Spring Security, you know that you can do a lot of things, like delegating to LDAP, a GDBC authentication, in-memory database, whatsoever. I'm just going to do a very simple one. So I'm going to give an opinion. So I'm going to create a security config. That's Spring Security, by the way. Who does not mess with that? And let's see. I'm going to do a thing in memory with user, password, user. And let's give it a simple role here. And let's create a hero user, right? The team of the talk. And that one has the user mode and the hero mode. Should be a consequence. So I'm basically giving an opinion. I'm basically saying, hey, this is what I want. If I hit on the team, better. Let's see. Okay, and if you look back at the logs, you'll see that the default user, the default password has not been generated. So it's consistent. We don't need that because you provided an opinion, so we're not going to show you that so that you don't get confused about it. So that's how GUG backs off. Basically, you provide a piece of config. We see the piece of config from your app. We use that instead of our own default. Note, however, that the whole Spring Security infrastructure was still configured. It's only one piece that we changed. So it's still basic authentication. It's still applying the security to all endpoints. But instead of using its own authentication manager, it's going to use the one that you provide. Okay, let's update our test here to show you one more thing. Let's connect to the root endpoint. Let's say that you want to restrict. You want to restrict that particular URI to the hero. Okay, so you're going to use that secure annotation. I'm going to enable the method security. So I'm just going to enable that feature. What did I wrote? User? Okay. So if you follow, that should fail. The red is proper red. And what you get is basically, instead of hello GenevaJUG, you get the JSON documents basically saying you don't have access to that resource. Okay? So that's also something that boot does for you. It gives you the opportunity to set exception messages and even tune HTTP status code. And instead of just sending the Tomcat HTML page, like you might get that by default, it will return you a JSON document. Well, in this case, that's because the REST template is basically asking for JSON by default. If you ask for XML, you get XML. And it will give you a proper document, so you can use that in your app to basically get the exception message and basically parse a standard document. Okay, so what we've seen so far is the starters. So these are dependencies. We provide the versions of them. So we provide a version matrix for them so that you don't have to worry about it. You add those to your project. So certain things gets enabled basically because the class is available on the class path. And what we've also seen is when you provide a piece of config that boot has an auto configuration support for, it will back off if it finds out that you have configured that aspect. If you have configured that aspect of stuff. So that's really about productivity and how you can get started with something that you basically don't know or you want to try it out and see if that works for you. What I want to show you now is the kind of non-functional features you get when you use boot. And these are shared in a starter called actuator. There is a very scientific explanation of what an actuator means, but I always forget what it is, so just go online and check yourself. Okay, so I just added that dependency, nothing else. Okay, let's start the app again. That was completely scheduled. Access denied. So what the actuator is going to provide, like I said at the beginning of the talk, is services to help you to monitor, debug, and basically look at the config of your app. That's not something that you want to provide to any user. Basically, I'm still logged in as probably the user, and the hero. Let me check that, because that might be an issue. So let's log in with the proper one. Okay, access denied. And why is that? Is because we have an opinion about the kind of role that you should get to access those endpoints. Anybody has an idea of what the role might be? What?
The role was zero.
Yeah, but that's my role. That's not the one Spring Boot. So Spring Boot by default, when you use those actuator endpoints, it will secure those endpoints. So you need to be authenticated basically to pass through. But I mean, only an administrator can access to those endpoints. So the role is admin. Okay, thank you. And that's not hero. Okay. So what I'm going to show you now is the previous example. I show you how you can write your own config, and that config is used. What I want to show you now is how you can tune the way the config is done without writing any code. You're just tuning how the auto configuration works. And for that, I'm going to use a key who's called, oh sorry, that's too small again, management security role. I'm going to say it's hello. So that's a config that boot provides. By the way, let me start again. Okay. That's the underground features in IntelliJ that does not exist. I can discuss that later. So basically, auto-completion of configuration keys, both your keys and our keys, basically. Let's restart the app. Basically, changing the default and still keeping the auto-configuration frame. Here we go. Okay. So environment is an endpoint that allows you to basically get the full config settings of your app as a JSON document, because that's the default. Again, if you're fancy XML, you just set the proper accept header and it will serve you XML. So you get the system properties, you get the environment properties, but you also get the custom config that was set in the application. So there you can find that in the root of the class path, there is a file called application properties, and in that file, we set that particular key. So you can basically retrieve that information remotely without even extracting the jar or figuring out where that key is coming from. That's a RESTful endpoint, so you can do things like that. So you can basically ask for one key, and it will get you the value. So you can imagine what a DevOps, in a DevOps environment, the kind of things you could do. You can monitor all those apps to make sure they are compliant with whatever rules you have set. You can do a thread dump remotely. Those who like kill -3 with the name of the PID knows what I'm talking about, right? You can get a debug information of the HTTP request. So you get a trace endpoint here, so you can see what my browser actually sent as HTTP headers and the kind of reply that the server sent back. So that's easy to debug. Things. You can get the list of beans in the application context. Okay. If someone has already worked with a large Spring-based application, especially when you use bean IDs to override, well, when you have several beans with the same ID, and based on the file that you load or based on the configuration class that you load, you basically have a strategy-based approach where you have 5 beans named foo. And depending on the environment, you need to start the right one. And sometimes it doesn't work and you have no UI. Well, if you hit that kind of issues, that endpoint is really a saver because not only you get the list of beans, but you also get the location where that bean was defined. So if I'm looking at my home controller here, I can see that it's coming from the Devo package in the home controller class. So basically, it picked up my component scanning. Oh, I can basically get all the HTTP mappings of my app. So basically, a URI and a controller. You can debug that too. You can get an autoconfig report from boot. Let me explain what the autoconfig is. So the way boot works in the inside is boot defines a set of classes called auto-configuration classes. They are defined in the files that we load on start. You can add your own if you want. It's very easy. That's how the kernel guys did it, by the way. And when the application context starts, we basically invoke the autoconfig class and we ask, do you have to do something? And what the autoconfig class does is basically looking at your class path, looking at your, well, it doesn't do that actually. It says, I will be enabled if javax.sql.data source is in the class path. And I will be enabled if there is no bean of type data source in the context. And that's how it works basically. So this report is basically giving you all the condition that matches and all the condition that didn't. So if you expect a beam to be auto-configured by boot and it doesn't, then you can look at that report to understand why. So for instance, let's say you wanted to work with GMS. And in the Spring world, there's a class named GMS template, GDBC template, GMS template, which allows you to send and receive messages very easily. And let's say you thought you configure a broker, whatever, and it didn't work. So let's see. I have this GMS auto configuration here, which is in the negative matches. Negative matches somewhere. Here we go. This one. Negative matches. And basically, it's saying that I haven't found GMS template in your project, so I could not do anything with it. And if you look a little bit deeper, let's say you wanted to use ActiveMQ. Okay, ActiveMQ, not enabled. Why? No connection factory, so basically no GMS API in my class. And the ActiveMQ connection factory class, it's not there either. So probably you forgot to add a dependency. There is also a matrix infrastructure, which we provide some useful, let's say, default, and you can add your own very easily. So at the top, you see a few information about the process. So these are basically retrieved from the process instance. And there is also those things at the back, the bottom, counter and gauge. So the counter is basically something you can increment or decrement. And the gauge is recording a single value. We use the gauge to, namely in this case, to record the last execution time in milliseconds. So if I refresh a lot, then you'll see that the matrix endpoint has been called 16 times. And it 16 times with 200 as the status code. If you hit that endpoint and there is an issue whatsoever, you'll get a new entry with counter the status dot 500, for instance, dot metric equals 1. And the last execution time for the metrics was 2 milliseconds. If we go back quickly to start.spring.io, which is, I told you it was a bootcat, then you get this. Slightly bigger. So all these are counter.initializer, are custom metrics that were built as part of the app. So basically, you can know many times. Oh, we have H2. Interesting. Okay. So for instance, OnNetQ, which is a GMS broker, has been asked 167 times since the project was restarted, which is I think yesterday. And we've created almost 2,000 projects since the restart. That's the few things you can get. And the last execution time was, where is it? That's the gauge, obviously. 84 milliseconds to generate a project. But that's the kind of things you get out of the box. If you don't like them, remember I said management.security role equals 0. If you don't want that thing to be deployed, you have something like endpoint.metric.enables equals false. The endpoint is not deployed. If you don't add the starter to your app, it won't be deployed either. You can have an health check, which is really nice. So that's basically every time you hit the endpoint, there's a set of what we call health indicators that are being invoked, and they tell if basically the service is up or not. So there's 2 of them. There's one which is basically looking if Mongo is still available and gives you back the version of MongoDB as a detail. And the second one is looking if I still have enough disk space. And the threshold is basically the value at which the status becomes down. So if basically you are under 10 megabytes, so if I start filling my disk now, at some point the status will become down and I will have problems with my laptop. Okay, let's see how you can add your own. All right, so I'm going to create a beam that I'm going to call GenevaJUG health indicator. Right. And I'm going to return something like, okay, the application is up. No, up. And I'm just going to add some random value. Okay.
That's one thing.
It's not random at all. Thank you for noticing. Here we go. You have a status and it's up. And if I do something like this, killing Mongo, oh, it's already done. Excellent. So it's done. Mongo is not available. Okay? So don't get confused about the lambda, because if you don't know about the lambda, it may be confusing to you, but okay, let's rewrite it without it. That health method is basically invoked every time you invoke the health endpoint. So what you would do in a real use case is you're probably going to inject a service that you depend on, run a dummy query on the service to make sure it's up, and if there is no exception, you just return up, otherwise you catch exception and you basically switch the status. And the way it works is if you have 3 health indicators and one of them is saying down, then the general status becomes down. So there is nice defaults. Well, that's what you basically see here. The application is down now. GenevaJUG is up. The disk is up, and Mongo is down. Okay. Let's restart Mongo. Cloud, anyone? Let's push that up in the cloud. Yeah? Okay. Let's do this. Okay. Let's build it first. I'm skipping the test because one test is failing. Remember, wrong username. Ooh. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. So what's the name again? I just want to show you that the jar works locally, and whatever data I have in my MongoDB. Okay. So let's stop this. Where am I? Okay. Let's stop this. What I need is I need a MongoDB in the cloud. So I'm going to use Pivotal Cloud Foundry. I'm going to deploy that on Cloud Foundry using the Pivotal offering. If I look at my Cloud Foundry client here, I can see that I'm logging into the frameworks and runtime organization and the space development. So I'm going to push my app in the development space. You may figure that there is a staging space and a production space. And I'm going to look at the service in this app, and I created one just so that it's faster. But I've named GenevaJUG something. There we go. GenevaJUG Mongo, which is a Mongo instance with a sandbox offering. Sandbox offering is the free offering, basically. So I'm going to create a manifest for my applications. I'm going to say I'm going to deploy an application called GenevaJUG, and I'm going to bind to the GenevaJUG Mongo service. Okay, let's see. Let's push that up, and referring to the same jar file, right? That's important. I did not rebuild the jar file. It's the same jar file. Then I can dance my C file if you want. Yes. Nope.
Nice try.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, first thing to, if you look at the screen, you'll see that it's uploading 759 kilobytes, which is definitely not the size of the jar file. Anybody knows what's going on here? Sorry? What about it? Yeah. So basically what we do is Cloud Foundry knows it's a boot app. So it knows that the libraries are in the jar. So they look at what they do, they actually compute a signature for all the jar file, send the signature to the server, basically asking, do you have that stuff? And if the answer is yes, we're not uploading it. So we're basically just uploading the code and a few bootstrap classes that should be cached, by the way. They are not, but they should. So basically the boot, the code that boot uses to bootstrap your app is not, we don't compute the signature for that. That's why it's always code. All right. Now, let's see. Oh, that's not true. cfapps.io 0, 0. Here we go. And up in the cloud. And let's create a few instances here. That should probably work. Yeah. Okay.
Question?
Yes.
I want to use another cloud provider.
Do so. Use Heroku, whatever you want.
Okay.
If you use Heroku, the only difference is you'll have to update your jar file. You'll have to add the Spring Cloud connector Heroku, because Heroku does not support Spring Boot natively at all. So you have to add an extra dependency, and what's basically is going to happen is that dependency is using Spring Boot itself. So when you start the app locally, it will figure out, hey, that's not an Heroku node here. Doesn't seem to be an Heroku environment. Okay, I'm not going to do anything. And when you push the same app in Heroku, it will figure out that it's Heroku and do its magic for you. Okay, I still have one more demo, and that one might fail. Okay. I'm going to change the authentication to use single sign-on using a oath. Okay. Let's go. Okay. So I'm going to add two dependencies. I have to do that. So the OAuth provider. So basically, if you don't know OAuth, what it does is you basically provide the address of some login form. The app redirects the app redirects to that login form. You have to say, yes, I agree to give my rights to that app. When you say OK, it will generate an ID. And basically, you use that ID to invoke the server, and the server will recognize you. In 20 seconds, that's basically what it is. That's what I added there. And I also added Spring Cloud Starter Security, because that dependency will basically give me the only thing I have to change to my app, which is this. Okay. Let's enable OAuth with single sign-on. Okay. Where am I? I need to rebuild my app, obviously.
So you are pushing the application without launching the test in production.
The test doesn't work because the username is wrong, remember? I can change that and run the test if you want. Yeah, I get that joke every time. Sorry. I'm starting again on localhost to show you that there is no magic. So I'm still logged in as basic authentication 0. Why? Because there is no config for OAuth. For OAuth, what you need to do is say, use that server, and to generate the token, use that server, use that URI, basically. I haven't provided anything, so OAuth not available, I'm not going to configure it. So I will fall back to the next option, and the next option is to use basic authentication. So what I want to do is I want to bind, if that's the, let's see that. Okay. I want to bind my service to what we call in Cloud Foundry a user-provided service. So SSO is basically a service I created in the cloud that contains those properties. So it's not a service per se. When you bind to that service, you get extra configuration, basically. The reason why I did that is because as part of the config, you also need to provide a secret key, and I'm not going to show you my secret key, right? Otherwise, there is a problem. So by binding my app to SSO, which is a service that I created in my organization, when I deploy that app now, there is an extra set of configuration that will be provided. Okay, let's do this. Geneva. -E. So updating app, and so it's figuring out that the app already exists. So it will take it down, upload everything, take it down, restart the new app. On Cloud Foundry, you can also do blue-green deployment. So basically, you have two instances started, and you just change the route. So you start the old, you start the new, you test the new to a specific route, so a different address. And when you're happy, you click on the button, and basically the router change to the URL of your service, and nobody noticed that you did a record. So to make sure that it works, I need to
Go to on first.
what?
/on.
You won't see them. Oh, yeah, that's an excellent question. So if you go to Env, the question is, if you go to Env, you may see the secret key.
Yeah.
No, you won't, because we make sure that such properties are not displayed. So you get basically stars instead of the value. I can show you that after. So starting my app again. Right, that should do it. So let's take this thing. No, that's not the right one. This one, this one. In the incognito window. Single sign-on. And I can access my app again. The problem is, since Eero was cached in my browser, I could have shut down my browser, restart my browser, only log into login.pivotal.io, and just copy paste the URL, and I shouldn't have to log in anything. That's because I created a new incognito window, but I had to log in. Let's see the end. No, I can't show you the environment because there's a bug. There's a bug with Spring Cloud security, which was fixed, by the way, but we sorry. Yes. We do have bugs. Okay, that's it for me. Let's go to the slides. Yeah. Nobody cares about that stuff. So there is plenty of things we could have seen, but probably you want to have a drink and some food. So these are the things we could have seen. There's plenty more since I created that slide. So my advice, try Spring Boot, go to start.spring.io, create a sample project. Just choose the thing that you like. Just choose the technology you want to try it out. Click a few of them, click Generate Project, open that in your favorite IDE, and try it out. Just do right-click main and see what it does.
How fun is it to integrate, let's say,
With what?
with Convoy,
what would you want to do with Spring Boot and Conference exactly?
how fun is it to integrate with automatic system?
Oh, you mean, okay. It's not any different from any other app. So if you want to build it, you build the exact same way. You saw that I used Maven, I used npm clean package, npm clean install. It's exactly doing the same thing. There is nothing different about it. There is also a Spring Boot Twitter account if you want to be in the news of what we do. And for those who have questions, if you're not aware of it, we've moved our open source support to Stack Overflow a few months ago. And there's a Spring Boot tag that you can use. So just type your question there and someone will answer you. And that's it for me. Thank you. I can take a few questions unless you are really in a hurry to. You can ask questions after. Yeah, in the back again. You know, you're the only one speaking English, but you are asking the questions.
How do you manage those questions? Because you thought that you generally not automatically. I mean, what if something breaks in the next question?
What about it? Like anything else you would do with any other application, really?
You would probably just either fix the application or you have a possibility to maintain the previous one.
Both. Are you talking specifically about what you can do with Cloud Foundry, or are you talking about Spring Boot? Are you talking about cloud deployment? Spring Boot. Well, let's say you have an app that's not using Spring at all. It's a WAR file. And you use Angular on, I don't know, struts 1 or whatever else you want to do. And there's a bug in one of the controllers. So you're basically going to patch the controller, fix the bug, and deploy that new WAR file to production. Staging, pre-prod about, well, you'll do exactly the same in Spring Boot. There's really nothing different about it. Okay? If you're still not convinced, we can chat that.
My question is more about all the magic around Spring.
Yeah. What about it?
It's kind of confusing because it seems that you are never.
Have you used it?
No, I haven't used it. They think like 1 year.
Yeah.
But
So the thing is, it's a two-step process. The first time you try, you don't really know what's going to be auto-configured and what is not going to be auto-configured. So you start to put configuration in your application of things that Boot will provide you anyway. So you're basically copy-pasting the auto-config that Boot provides. And then that's the first, let's say, the first user experience with Boot usually. And once you've done that and you understand how it works, you basically remove that config and you realize that the application works. And then you learn how to know what Boot is going to provide, because the documentation is fairly consistent. So if you want to work on feature A, well, if it's supported, of course, you'll have a dedicated section. You have a getting how-to guide and a configuration guide for A. And it's pretty much always defined the same way. So you know what's going to happen, and you can use that. But I don't like the word magic, because that's how Boot was introduced at the beginning. And it can be magic in the sense that it happens automatically, but I prefer automatically than magic, because that's not really the same thing. Because we tell you exactly what was enabled and what wasn't and why. Once you know where to go. But there is also this /config that I show you. If you run your app with --debug, which is the debug mode of Boot, when the application starts, it will print a report, which is the exact same report of the one. Yes.
How easy it is to extend Spring Boot to support other technology that you don't support?
Excellent question. Thank you for asking. Everybody knows about GMS here? Yeah? Excellent. So you probably know about this wonderful broker called HornetQ, which I personally like a lot, which is Red Hat component that's built in Java, the latest Java version. And HornetQ has this nice feature that you can embed it. So you can, like we do for Tomcat, we basically, instead of starting catalina.sh, we use a Java API to start the blockade. That's what Boot does. You can do the same thing with HornetQ, and we didn't have any support for it. And HornetQ autoconfig is my first, let's say, big development in Boot. That's how I think I got accepted in the team. So I want to show you how easy it is. Well, the code is not easy anymore because there's plenty of features that add it, but especially the GTA support, which did complexify things a bit. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to create a class that basically tells if that autoconfig should apply. And it's basically a specification. So the first thing I'm saying is I need a connection factory and I need on a queue GMS client, which is the main on a queue class you can use to connect to the on a queue broker. The second thing is I'm going to apply this autoconfig if there is no connection factory in. So if you know about that, that's basically the same thing as a data source or GMS. So connection factory is a way to create connection and session with the broker. If you have configured one, so if you have a bean of type connection factory in your application, this will simply back off because you have to find something, so we're not going to do it. So I have GMS. I have the GMS API in my class path. I have the OnNetQ GMS client libraries in my class path. And I don't have defined a connection factory. And then what happens is, when that happens, basically it will apply that config. And there's two parts to the auto configuration. There's the what we call the configuration properties. So remember about management.security.role equals 0. I'm doing the same thing for the OnNetQ support with the prefix spring.OnNetQ. So if I go here and I type, then you can see all the options that you can use. These options are basically harvested automatically from this class. Okay. So the simple fact of putting configuration properties with a prefix means that anywhere in the application, so if you do anywhere like -- spring.onNetQ.port equals 2, then the OnNetQ port we're going to use is 2. Well, that's a lousy example, but you get what I mean. So that's really the first part, is configuring the way the auto configuration works. Once you've got that, you've got the auto configuration class with some scary annotations. That's probably not the best example I should have shown, but anyway. And what you do is you basically configure that stuff. So you define bean definition with additional watchguard to typically this one. If nobody has created an OnNetQ configuration, I'm going to create one. And I'm going to use the properties that I have defined, the other class I just showed. I'm going to use that as a source for the config. What that means basically is if you want to take control over the complete OnNetQ configuration, you define a bean of type OnNetQ configuration and you're in control. That's your code that runs, not ours. Same thing here. If we decide to embed the broker, I'm going to if there is no broker defined, so you can also take over completely and define the broker yourself. If you didn't, then we're going to embed the broker for you. Okay. And you obviously don't want the broker to be embedded every time, right? You want to, if you don't have the class, because you need the server API now, not the client API. If you don't have the server API, that's not going to work. That's basically this. If the embedded implementation is not there, I'm not going to kick in at all. And two, even if the API is in the class path, you still want to control through configuration that you don't want to embed it. The most obvious example of that is if you deploy a boot app in Wi-Fi, because there you'll have the OnNetQ server classes on your class path because the application server provides that, but it also provides you with the service. You don't need to start the service. So we are also capable of detecting that. That's basically why you have the auto configure before and after So we're basically going to first to look if there is a connection factory bound to GNDI. So if there is GNDI, if there is a connection factory bound to GNDI, and if there is, we will just use that. If there isn't, which means we are not on Wildfly, we're not using GNDI, then we'll start to see if we can embed the server. And if we can't, because the server API is not on the class path, we're going to connect, like we did for MongoDB, to the OnNetU server sitting at localhost 334, which is defined by those values. And how it works is you only have to define the auto configuration in one file, even if it's, oh, crap, oh, maybe I have it. Yeah, obviously that's not the kind of file you get, but basically that file is listing all the autoconfig of that module, which is basically probably the only one where there is so much, since it's the Spring Boot for Java. And we look at that key, and for all the values, we just ask, do you have to auto-configure something? So to put it short, let's say you are the maintainer of full library. You create full auto configuration, full properties if you want to customize the way the autoconfig works. You choose a prefix like full dot, might be a good one. You create a string factory into the meta-int directory. In there, you put that key equals the fully qualified name of your full auto configuration. And you can use all the core of boot like conditional on missing bean, conditional on missing type. You can also write your custom condition. For instance, the GNDI one is a custom condition. We look if the GNDI is available, things like that. Okay, it might be easier with a simple example. That one was not easy. Before the GTA support was easy. Yeah.
Is it possible, for example, to use Jersey instead of
yes.
framework, or...
Yes. Just add it and we will do that. If you want a concrete example of that, you can go to spring.io/blog, and the latest blog entry from Josh is actually showing you. Drinks, right?